What is up, everyone? Welcome to Mechs on Deck. We are here with a special guest, Mr. NathanAlphaMan, designer
Hello, everybody.
Designer of GMK Ursa and the Evolve, the upcoming Evolve. How you doing, my dude?
Doing pretty well today. How are you guys?
Doing well, doing well. What about you, Chewy?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm a little tired, but I've been looking forward to this interview for a couple weeks. I think we set this up like 7 weeks ago, and then whenever we were setting it up, we are like, "This is gonna be great." And it's like, "Cool, talk to you in 7 weeks."
Kind of how it goes sometimes, and you plan something out, you get real excited for it, and then all of a sudden you're like, "Oh crap! Now I gotta wait like 2 months for it to happen."
Group eyes in a nutshell.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, much. If you can't have patience in this hobby, then you don't belong in this hobby, sadly. But Yeah, this is NathanAlphaMan, guys. He is kind of really splashed onto the scene at the end of last year with GMK Ursa being a very clean set, and then making huge waves with the Evolve interest check. For those who don't know, it was kind of one of the most, probably the most talked about interest check for a long time due to its, how do I say this? Lofty goal. It was one of the a very and promises of running over it with a truck are still going to be met. As I'm going to hold you to that. But thank you for joining us. As you, I'm sure you have noticed, we start off with our Fast Four. So, what are your top 4 favorite switches?
So I thought about this one for a while before Kyle coming on. I'm gonna try to break this up into a few categories. So like at the bottom, number 4, I have the Silent Alpaca, and it's not a switch I thought I'd like because I'm not a big fan of linears and I'm not a big fan of silence. But it's a switch I kind of grew to love because of that kind of squishy bottom out, and it's just an all-around good switch for if I need to type at night without disturbing anybody. I pull out the IDV60 that's built with them, and it's a workhorse. Past that, I'd probably go to the H1s. They just sound absolutely beautiful, and another great linear switch. In number 2, it's not MX, it's Topra. It's my favorite, probably my favorite typing experience. And like the Real Force was like the first nice keyboard I got, and I've used it almost every day since I've had it. But in number 1 is the perfect MX tactile. There is no better switch. It's the Zyko, and I'm actually typing on those right now, and I absolutely love them.
They're good.
They are so good. They're a switch where I was like, 3 component switches. They work out to like expensive, like $4 a switch or
Lots of
something.
money.
Lots of money. And I was like, I don't know if I want to invest in this. And I was like, let's do it for the meme. And I ended up falling in love. It's such a good switch.
I remember that conversation. It happened in Gen Chat.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you told me to go F myself because you were like, fuck you. I was like, why are these good? I was like,
the thing that sucks the most about Zykos is not the fact that it takes 3 switches. It's that the remnants just like they just don't work together, so they just kind of like exist. Like I have a little tub
that's just full of the extras from building Zykos.
Yeah, that's it's funny the fact that it takes 3 switches and the price is like the 3rd biggest problem behind the fact that they're fragile and you could
I think I built 90 of them and I think 10 of them broke.
Yeah, that's pretty standard. I don't have a Zyko build right now because they're going in a future build that I cannot talk about quite yet. But there are only 60 remaining of the original ones. I made 73 to start off. I guess they're 61 because I've got one in my switch tester. I made 71 and then that number dwindled very quickly because I was still figuring out how to use them. So, but the original ones are sitting in a tub over there. So, but I remember messaging Eric and I was like, dude, I don't know what to think. It's like, it's going to be really strange whenever you type on this. And he came over and he's like, what the fuck?
It's one of those things. It makes it, I don't know. It makes me question because it feels when you've used so many different switches, you expect a certain feel to also generate a certain sound, but it feels different and then sounds different from what you expect it to, if that makes sense. Yeah. But it's like in a good way. Like it's shocking in a good way.
It's like a really good sounding typewriter is almost the experience of it. It's just like it's like it's 2 states. You're either depressed or you're not.
Yeah, and all bump.
All bump.
Yeah, it is a little bit rough for me sometimes when I'm playing video games That's why I typically will use my iron if I'm typing, because that has Zycos in it. And if I'm like just typing something up, because I really, really enjoy them for typing. But if I'm playing games, I'll switch to like my Bauer or my Sirius
I
or
do the
something.
same. This is my typing board, and then as soon as I'm gaming, I swap boards because I cannot, like, my fingers hurt if I play on it.
Well, moving on from switches to boards, and we'll take the Evolve, even because I know you've got your Protos, it's got some round twos. But what are your top 4 favorite keyboards?
Oof. No particular order for this one, except for my number one, and that's the J01. So I have it right in front of me. This is the one that's built with Zycos.
Ooh, I bet that sounds insanely good.
Oh, it's crazy. And so my before I drop it, my history with this keyboard is like weird because as you guys probably know, Jay did the charity raffle for the Sue Ryder Foundation, and I entered a few tickets into there, and I ended up winning it. And so this is that board.
Oh wow!
And I got it, and it was like the craziest thing to receive, right? Because it's one of those like really rare pieces. And I ended up building it up with Zycos, much to the annoyance of my thumbs, because they did not fit in the carbon fiber plates.
I bet. I appreciate that you're willing to put Zycos on that board, though. That's still a special place in my heart. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean, it's an amazing experience. Like I cannot wait for meetups to happen again for me to bring this board around. And it's just such a unique typing experience, and I love it. And yeah, I don't think like this is a board that, like, even if I exited the hobby and sold everything, like, I don't think I could get rid of the J01. Another one up there is probably the Norba Force. I have a love of Topra, and his cases are really, really nice. They have like this really great powder coat finish to them. They feel amazing. The quality of machining is great. And like, I respect Norbauer's dedication to fully manufacturing in the United States, and it's something that I want to eventually start doing with my boards. And so it's something that, yeah, just a really, really lovely board. Beyond that, I'd say, actually, I wasn't expecting to, but I really ended up enjoying the IDB 60. I'm not a big fan of 60%. I do like my dedicated arrow keys, but there's something about the simplicity and the elegance of that board that make it really, really nice. And God, if I had to pick one last one, there's such a big list. I guess, okay, if there's like one grail out there that I really want to own one day, it would be the other full isolation gasket mount, and that's the Kepler. There's something so beautiful about the way it's built. Those really hard edges and chamfers, how big the bezels are, the curves on the bottom. It's really just super stunning to look at. And I would love to have one and try one out.
We had a chance to mess around with Starstone's prototype at the NorCal meetup last year. And man, the Kepler is just such a pretty board, and the bottom is just so awesome. And I can't wait to see the stainless steel ones as well once those start getting to people and people are posting pictures of them. They're just going to be beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes. So we're going to take out Ursa on this next one. But top 4 favorite keycap sets.
So I'm going to start with one that I was not anticipating to fall in love with, but really ended up liking, and that's Originative Red Cyrillic. I have it on the J01. I got it as a temporary set because I thought Ursa was coming, and I just needed something to put on there for a little while because I didn't have any keycap set for it. Originative had it in stock, and I got it. I put it on the keyboard, and I was like, wow. I mean, just like, there's this thing I have where, like, Cyrillic legends are meant to be read, and this, like, black, white, and red, it just clean classic, and it looks good. From there, I really love GMK Phantom. I have it on the Evolve Protos. Something about that purple and the yellow gives it this beautiful regal feel. Big fan of the set. It's still coming, but GMK Binsu, that was one of the first key set ICs where I saw it and I was like, I have to have this. I fell in love with it at first sight, and it's actually why I got my 45 ATS in Plum, was for GMK Binsu. And one last one. Shout out to Hazy. GMK Botanical is fantastic. Ursa's a green set, and Botanical is also this beautiful muted green set. And I'm probably going to put it on the Tengu I'm feeling, because I think it's going to look fantastic on polycarbonates.
Mm-hmm.
That's a set that, like, I've noticed there's been a couple sets, and that's one of them, where the more that I look at them, the more I'm like, man, I should have gotten this, or it makes me fall in love and then purchase it. And for whatever reason, it's always like some sort of a green set. I know Waves is like very, very green, but that's kind of what happened with that. And then obviously I love olive, so I like that just color. But yeah, same thing with even Ursa. Now looking back, I'm like, man, that's gonna look great when that finally ships out.
Yeah, should be soon, hopefully.
Yeah, Ursa was one of those. I actually got in on like the pre-order one from Kono, because I guess after the group buy they did the pre-order. I just stared at it like, I was just like, if I want this, if every day I look at this and want it, in 2 weeks I'll buy it. And if it's still there, then I'll get it. And after like 2 weeks, I was like, you know what? Yep, do it, because I think that green sets can be hard to do. I think if you do something like Nuclear Data or like Grain, where it's just like green, and like Terra, where it's just like green, like that's great. But whenever it's not the main focus, it can be harder to do. And I think the only sets that have really accomplished that, in my opinion, really well. I'm going to say Olive did a good job. I also just don't like Olive, just in general. But Camping and Ursa are the ones. Camping's a little bit more in your face with the green, but other sets have tried to do the green. Like, I didn't really like Waves that much, but granted, electric green, that is a polarizingly green set. But Camping and Ursa, and that's, actually right now I have Camping with my Ursa bear, just waiting for GMK Ursa. So it's just a beautiful set. So well done.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, next up, the one that has nothing to do with keyboards, your top 4 favorite foods.
So my theme is going to be pretty Asian. Big fan of ramen. Nothing like a good hearty bowl of ramen. Around where I am, there's some places where you have to stand like 2 hours in front of the door to get in, and it's worth it every single time, because that soup warms up your body like nothing else. So if I really had to eat one more thing for the rest of my life, it would be ramen. Beyond that, there's something I love cooking for myself at home is fish curry. I have this like spicy curry mix that I got while I was on vacation in Sri Lanka, and like, if you've had like, I've had a bad day, like just make that, put some like chilies in it, and it's super spicy, feels really good to eat, a lot of fun. From there, I'm gonna go kind of Russian. So beef stroganoff, just nothing like meat and pasta and cream. It's just one of those dishes that is I always love. And the last one's gonna be cheesy, but it's like my grandma's chicken noodle soup. Like it's all the
Can't say
memories
no to.
Yeah, exactly. Like all the time when you were sick or whatever, like she would make me a bowl of soup, and that's it.
Can't say no to grandma's chicken noodle soup. Like big hunkin' pieces of chicken nugget. They're not chicken nuggets, but chicken cutlets is what I meant to say.
Yeah, I was about to say, if it's
if
chicken
you want to
nuggets,
throw chicken nuggets in there, go for it, dude. Whatever. Add a little more hardiness to it with the breading. That's a solid list, though. Solid list. A fellow man of spicy food culture. I appreciate it. So, but like I said, guys, if you don't know this man, you absolutely should. NathanAlphaMan, the designer of the Evolve, the designer of GMK Ursa, the designer of a set we're going to have some spicy leaks on, some hot takes. We're gonna rip it apart on stream. But we're going to get started by talking about GMK Ursa. I know a lot of you are going to be wanting to talk about the Evolve, but I promise we will get there. As long as the internet is up and running, we'll talk about the Evolve. But I do want to talk about with Ursa is just, I guess, the process. How did that come about? I noticed you had a lot of ambassadors, so I'm going to assume something there with a bear.
So actually, I got into ambassadors after I did Ursa. I seed Ursa, and CYO reached out to me, and he's like, "Hey, I have this sculpt. Can I do a colorway for Ursa?" And I was like, "I'm gonna be honest, I'm not into artisans, but I would love to work with you. Like, it's a fantastic match." And he made the bear, and he sent it to me, and I think like that was like the first inkling to me falling in love with artisans. And then I met Tex, the Destroyer from the artisan community, and like him plus CYO is what really got me building my collection. And now I have quite a few of them. But anyway, back to Ursa. So I got into this hobby kind of beginning of the summer last year. So just over a year ago. And I was rebuilding my desktop PC, and I wanted a new keyboard. So I started Googling around about like good new MX keyboards. I had a WASD before. And so like slowly like Google AdSense, started knowing like I like keyboards. And one day a Teja build stream popped up in my YouTube feed, and it was him building the Kepler. And the title was like $800 keyboard. And I was like, oh my God, who would spend $800 for a keyboard? So I clicked the video and I watched it. I was like, I just still don't understand this. But he had like some Keycap links in the bottom. And so I started browsing Keycap, and like slowly, like, I don't know how it kind of happened, but it just snowballed into, I was like, wow, this community is really, really cool. And I want to build myself a really nice keyboard. And so I bought myself the first custom I bought was that wooden case with SA chalk on it behind me from some user off Reddit. And it was like a nice little board, and I was like, now I need like the perfect key set for it. And I was like watching ICs at the time, and that was I think the GMK Cafe IC had happened, I guess, beginning of the summer. I think it was. I was like, damn, this is the perfect set for me, but I want green in it because like I wanted white, I wanted brown, and I wanted I wanted this like idea of almost like a house plant, right? And this like in like a white pot. And so I was watching GMK Cafe, and I still bought it, Lang. It's a beautiful set. I can't wait for it. But I still wanted like my own thing for it. And so I started, I was like, okay, how hard can it be to design my own set? And so I started Googling around. I started doing the research. Like I found the Keycap designers Reddit subreddit at the time. And I started working on doing Ursa. And when it was initially made, I actually called it, I think it was GMK Breathe, because it reminded me like of a forest and kind of like open air. And that was the inspiration, like trees and snow. Or a house plant in a white pot. And then I started working on the novelties. And I had this like very like when I started, I wanted that line aesthetic that I have in the Ursa novelties, the almost single stroke. And I started with the escape, the cloud, and then I did the flower, and I did the bee, and the set was still called GMK Breathe that entire time. And then I did the bear, and I was like, this is it. This is the namesake for the set. This is GMK Ursa now. And so like I renamed the set, like I got ABEC to do the renders for me. And I posted the IC, and like kind of that was that. And I got really good response and made some tweaks here and there. And I'm really, really proud of how it came out. I think it's stunning. I had the color samples come in at the beginning of March, and they were bang on what they were supposed to be. I can't wait to see it complete.
Awesome. I do have a question, because the Paddington kit, I think it brought on the now like almost standard of doing some sort of novelty ISO enter key, which I think is great, because it makes a key that some people do need, some people use, obviously, but a lot of us here in North America have no need for it. But that makes it a little bit desirable. How did you go about doing that?
So Paddington's kind of an interesting story. Paddington started with me reading a post by, I know it's like now a legendary meme, but like Miguel Depleted Vespine coming into those threads at the time, like ratting on people for having crap ISO support. And I was like, you know what? Like, I want to have good ISO support. And I kitted it out, and it got a lot more expensive. And like, let me put it in its own kit. And I did that, and I was looking at it with ABEC, and he's like, why don't you put a novelty into it? What, on the ISO enter? And he's like, yeah. And so I was, I was like, okay, that's a good idea. Let me spend some time thinking about that. And so originally I just took the bear and rotated it 90 degrees, and that kind of wasn't good enough. And then I think it was like later that week or something. Paddington came up somehow. I didn't watch it, but like it came up in my YouTube feed or something, and I was like, this is a British bear. There is nothing more perfect to put on an ISO kit than a British bear. And so I pulled up some reference images and started working on it. And it went through a lot of iterations. And then I got to like a place I was happy with it, put it on, and it looks fantastic. And like, I know my girlfriend, she was like super invaluable in helping get Paddington right. And like, I worked on that bear so much with her. And like it would go back and forth, and then she'd send it to her mom because her mom's Canadian and grew up watching Paddington cartoons, and she'd go, hey, do you know who this is? that was like a really fun process of making that novelty. And he's probably the novelty I actually put the most effort into. And I'm really glad I did, because, you know, here's like a special thing for ISO users. And I honestly think I'm going to build whatever board I put Ursa on in ISO so that I can have Paddington on my board.
Yeah, you definitely it's going to be a long time before someone makes a better novelty ISO key than that. Like, it fits so well, and it's such a like, it's like a stray from the set, but it's not. You've managed to capture a separate audience, right? But still staying true to the Ursa theme, the bear theme. I thought it was fantastic. I'm sure there's some people, you know, I know that those little enter key macro pads where it's just the ISO enter.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of those sets where I was like, I'm contemplating getting that ISO, that little macro pad, and then this ISO kit just so I can have this little Paddington bear, because it's designed beautifully. And I mean, it's not every day that the most talked about novelty key is the ISO enter. So, but yeah, I mean, you did a great job on this. I'm super excited to see how it turns out. I think that you managed to make saturated colors pop, which is hard to do. So I think I'm super excited. And you know what's funny is you and I have kind of the same story with the same artisan key. I remember randomly seeing it pop up, and I was like, I really like that. I'm going to try for the raffle and see if I win. And I wound up winning. And then that kind of really started my deep dive into artisans. And now I have 9 bears. So
I think my bear collection's up to 15 or 16, I think. Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah. It was not something I anticipated to start collecting. But I think the Binsu bear was actually the first one I got, because he introduced me to it, and I was like, I want to see one of those bears, and I just recently bought Binsu, so I got the Binsu bear in, and I really, really liked it. And then the Ursa bear came in, and then it kind of went downhill from there.
Is what is your favorite artisan right now? Is it the bear, or have you grown love for something else?
In terms of like okay, I got 2 favorite sculpts. It's the bear. It's like the thing that started it all for me. CYO even made me a beautiful 1 of 1, like yin yang kind of inspired bear that is really, really nice. Oh, pressing keys and Discord's freaking out. And then the other one that I really love is the Clifford by Archetype. I first got into Archetype through the Colcabra. I know Mex in chat probably freaking out. I first got into the Colcabra and I really liked it. And then I got the Clifford and I'm like, damn, that's even better. And so those are kind of like my two favorite sculpts. But yeah.
Also nice JO1.
Yeah, I've been bugging Archetype for Clifford for a while now. I'm just like, hey, what's up, bud?
Yeah.
So
If I had like one grail, it would be the Fug K. Just I mean, everybody loves nightcaps, and I guess it's serious as well. But like, I know I'm never going to get one of those. I'm going to get a.
You can try. I mean,
I can try. I put it every week, and I've never.
Although
won.
honestly, I think you've used up all of your raffle luck.
All of my raffle
your life.
That's it.
So, but no, I'm do you have the samples on hand?
For Ursa? They're in a drawer somewhere.
Okay. Back of a drawer in a dark place. So, but yeah, guys, if you are able to, I know it's sold through Kono. If you're able to pick up some extras, I know the set is going to look great. The contrast is going to be great, honestly. And thank you for keeping the numpad clean. Without those, I can't stand the numpad.
I really don't like numpad sub-legends.
So, anytime someone does that,
like one of the things that like really makes me doubt to buy a set is numpad sub-legends.
It just makes it busy.
Exactly.
Are you mod colored
tilde or
I was gonna
backslash.
Backslash. I was gonna say backspace because I pretty much only use split backspace. But yeah, are you mod colored or are you alpha colored?
On 60% I'm mod colored. On everything else I'm alpha colored.
Oof.
It's just like one of those things where I prefer alpha colored, but it looks wrong to not have it mod colored on a 60 because there's like this great symmetry that you get when you mod color it. So both, I guess.
It'd be like that, but so moving on, we're going to talk about driving over keyboards. So you launched the Evolve interest check. It looks like Tuesday, February 4th of 2020. So earlier this year. It's definitely changed since the first iteration. So looks like,
yeah.
I remember we frequently talked about how it looked like. Oh man, I just went blank on his name. The Spider-Man villain, Venom. Thank you. Venom. It looked like the symbiote, peeling off. And it was a very, very heavily scrutinized board because it was kind of one of the. It's straight away from anything we had ever seen, right? As if you wanted to sell a keyboard, make it safe, make it a square, and you clearly said, "Fuck that! I'm going to build my own goddamn board." So I'd like to, talk about your process of designing this.
Yeah. So Evolve started with the Iron 165. The Iron 165 came out, and like I read the IC, and like it is a beautiful board. Don't get me wrong, but I think one of the most fascinating parts of the IC for me was Luke's finite element analysis write-up, where he talks about the philosophy of the design of the plate. And he said that he like manually did all of this, and like all to get it to balance, like one iteration per key, multiple times. And I was like, there's got to be a better way. And so Evolve started as me trying to find a scientific way to make plates consistent. And there was months and months of me emailing with professors and like reading research papers on this stuff, and trying to understand, elasticity and deformation on a very like fundamental material level. And so professors at school like helped a lot with that. And I spoke with my advisor, actually, because he's a material scientist, about this. And it's been a really interesting project to do that. And I'm, of course, still working on the plate. But, at a certain point, I was like, okay, I got to start designing the board, right? And so while I was working on the plate, I started with the bottom of the board, and I kind of wanted to carry the idea of the fact that a computer designed the top into the aesthetic of the board. And the best way to do that was to do this to the bottom. And so this is generated using generative design. And so I like literally in CAD, I had all of the interior geometry for the top. And then I put a wedge, put a huge load on it, and told it to generate everything else. And that's where the tendrils come from. And the reason it can get run over by a truck is because it's simulated with the weight of a truck in order to get the tendrils like this, right? First I generated with like the weight of like a human hand typing, and they were like pencil thin. I was like, that's just ugly. And like, let's keep upping the weight. And I kept upping the weight and I kept upping the weight until I got this. I'm like, how heavy is that? And it was like just about what a truck weighed. Would it hold a truck? I think that's like the question a lot of people have wanted me to answer. It would hold, yes, it would hold a truck if you like loaded it exactly, but on the inside, there's like a lot of very thin aluminum, and that would 100% deform if you put a tire on it. If you fill the inside with like a block of wood and like you maybe like support those walls, I think it would hold a truck without an issue. I mean, aluminum's really strong, and you pretty much have a wedge with a lot of columns supporting it. So that's kind of where I think Evolve came from. It started as this desire to have this absolutely unique computer-generated typing experience, and then the aesthetics came from there, and then kind of the aesthetics became what is now the centerpiece for everybody. And as IC progressed, it was like I could see that people were like, okay, the plate is interesting, but that bottom dough. And that has kind of like carried the philosophy of the redesign and everything I've been doing with the board since then.
And what happened with the redesign? I know that it was talked about in the group by thread, but just for people who maybe don't know, what happened with that?
So with that, it was I got this, which this is the Evolve V1, and I pulled it out. I didn't have a PCB for it at the time. I put some switches in; they were like nicely lubed up. Put some caps on it, and I typed on it, and I was like, "Wow, this thing sounds awful." It pings like crazy. Like you can knock on it, and it resonates. And also just the build quality of it was nowhere near what I wanted for the price point it was going to be. So the original version, this bottom was 3D printed out of aluminum. 3D printed aluminum costs $1.50 a gram. This bottom is like 600 grams.
Jeez.
That's a lightened version, right? It's just stupidly expensive and not good quality, right? Like you can see when I hold it up to the light, just like all those ridge lines on it. It's even worse on the inside of the board where you can see like giant seams. Like there's the cutouts for the sound hole are not straight. Like they're like super wibbly wobbly. And I was like, okay, that doesn't work. And then the next issue is I can't see the generative design until I look at the board like this, right? Unless it's lined up with my eyesight, I have no clue that this is on the bottom when I'm typing it on my desk. And those are kind of all things that wanted me to drive to redesign it because I did not want to deliver a product that I didn't believe in. If I'm not proud of it, I'm not gonna deliver it to anybody. I'm not gonna put my name on it. So I was like, okay, it was a great learning experience. Let's put it in my collection. And that was that for the version 1. And the version 2 started from the ground up, brand new file. I kept nothing. And so version 2 has started with the top actually. So immediately I increased the thickness of the bezels just to give it a little bit more oomph and not have it like look like a tofu. The other problem with the thin bezels that I realized is thin aluminum resonates. So if it's going to contribute to a worse sound of the board, whether it's integrated or not. Integrated being the next thing. I had great conversations with Yangsta, a guy from the Australian keyboard community, and he's a acoustic and noise isolation engineer. And we have spent like a lot of time in DMs talking about vibration and noise propagation, and that kind of did a lot to inform the new design of the Evolve, which is kind of like the JL1 inspired full isolation gasket. That was also around the time I got the JL1 in and typed on it and was like, this is the best typing experience I've had. How can I apply this to the Evolve? And so I kind of modified it for my own needs. It's pretty different than the JL1s because the Evolve is a screwless exterior. So all the screw mounts are on the inside. And so interfacing that with a gasket was actually like a rather tricky design challenge. So the system's a bit different, but it's made a much better typing experience and provided to the aesthetics. And then the next thing I did was kind of interfere with the generation algorithm to get a more aesthetic bottom, right? So to bring the tendrils out all the way to the edge. So the other thing here is like these tendrils are flush with the side of the board. And so that I kind of needed to introduce the seam for that. And I know the seam doesn't pop up well on camera when it's polycarbonate, but like compared to here, right? Like these tendrils are super recessed, and that's enough that you can't see it when you look at it from a side. And so by pushing them all the way out to the edge, I was able to kind of really give you that feeling of you're using something unique when it's just sitting on your desk and you're like looking straight down on it.
Yeah, and that for me, that was a big like, oh wow, now this looks even better when you push those out, because it just, like you said, it made it to where the aesthetics of it being wrapped around like that and being way more visible made you, I feel like, appreciate it more, because you're getting to see it a lot more. Because you're not realistically going to look at the back of your board very often unless you're like picking it up or turning it around. So that really was a cool thing to add in.
Yeah, it's been an amazing learning process and really, really fun to work on Evolve. And I'm really happy with where it is today versus where it was in February versus where it was when I first started on the project back in July of last year.
Did you have any like design in this way before? Like any experience in that kind of design?
Like I made like boards for myself that I never got built. But like I come, so I'm a mechanical engineering student. So I could come from a place of I've been using CAD for 8 years now. I'm really comfortable in CAD softwares, and I'm really comfortable doing design, having been on like high school robotics teams, having done robotics in college. So like that's something I knew how to do. What I didn't know how to do was necessarily product design, right? Because it's a completely different beast to design for human interaction and also to design for mass production, even if mass production is 30 units, right? When you build a one-off robot for combat robotics or for high school robotics, right? Like you can take shortcuts in CAD because you can just solve them while you're building it. But with a real board that's going to be built by other people, like you can take no shortcuts. It all has to be perfect. Otherwise, the build experience for other people is going to be awful. Like, I mean, nothing against Pengu, but like the IDB60, I had to like file the PCB down to get it to even fit in the board, right? And it's just like those little things where like you got to get every step just exactly right to make the boards.
Well, it's the, like, I think Rama takes to this, Keycap takes to this really well, but it's the Apple aesthetic, right? You want it to open the box and you want it to just work. You don't, as someone designing or releasing something where you have to kind of be hands-on with it, you know, it's Osiris and I feel like in the last 2 weeks have had to deal with plate tightness issues, and that's nothing. I mean, we can talk about plate cutouts for 40 hours straight and never come to a good conclusion because there's such a small margin of error, but you want that whole experience to be great, right? And you want it to just work. You want it to be super easy and super simple. While also, but the hardest part there is you have to cater to everyone, though, right? You have to cater to the silent crowd. You have to cater to the Zyko crowd. You have to cater to the Holy Panda crowd, where those housings are now going to be bigger and fit tighter into spots, whereas like inks are actually kind of small, and there's more room for play there, and it's just that's tough. It's tough.
It's one of those things from like there's people who are good at CAD. Then there are even less people who are good at design, and there's even less people who are good at industrial design, right? And being a good industrial designer is really hard and takes a lot of practice. And then you can like look at people like Rama. That man is a really good industrial designer. He can make a board that you take out of the box and it works and everything fits. Same with Riot from Keycap, right?
Yep.
They are really good industrial designers, and being good at industrial design is not at all the same thing at knowing how to use Fusion 360 or SolidWorks.
And then understanding the aesthetic as well. like on
Yeah.
top of it is like another thing, because I feel like even with what you're saying about how changing like design, when you're designing things for like robots or anything, you're not necessarily thinking about aesthetics. You're thinking about the way it functions rather than the way it looks. Whereas keyboards, they have to function really, really well and achieve that goal, but then also be aesthetically pleasing, or else people aren't going to be as excited about them.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard to get all three.
Yeah. Yep.
So, but it's, I'm very excited. It's we're very fortunate. We're actually going to be building one on stream. And good luck getting it back. So I hope you're planning a trip to drive out to Texas and pry it from our dead hands. But
I'm interested in the carbon fiber plate. Did you decide on carbon fiber after your experience with the J01 and how that reacted?
That's like exactly it. I typed on carbon fiber and I was like, this was the best plate experience I've typed on. And like, yes, it had some issue with Zycos, but I sized up the holes a tiny bit. Inks are a little loose, but and Zycos are a little tight, but like at least it doesn't destroy my thumb. I think carbon fiber is this great material where it's so it's not metal, which is really important when you're doing vibration isolation, because you want materials that have very different densities and different Young's moduluses. So that pretty much has to do with stiffness of the material. And by having a plastic and by having a metal board or having a metal plate and a plastic board, you are having vibrations propagate at different frequencies, and then they won't want to propagate when they get to the other materials, right? They're like mega simplified. And so getting rid of aluminum plates, getting rid of brass plates, I was like, okay, I can do POM, I can do polycarbonate, I can do FR4, I can do carbon fiber. Polycarbonate's too flexy for me. POM, Delrin acetyl, whatever you want to call it, is awful to work with. I could do FR4. I'm not a big fan of what it looks like. I had typed on carbon fiber from the J01, and I was like, okay, this is the option that's left for me, and it ended up being perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And then, oh, sorry, go ahead, Chi.
No, you go. I've mine's a slight stray from.
Oh, well, mine.
Evolve, so.
I was going to go off of plates, and I was going to ask about the rotary encoder rotary joystick actually, because we've seen a lot of rotary encoders, but then you're taking a slight variance of that and doing the joystick.
Yes, that was mostly kind of just me wanting to have fun, right? Like inject one little last feature into it. And so far it's worked great. From a you guys perspective, for like people who are building the board, the up, down, left, and right are simply just like 4 more QMK key codes, right? Mm. So there's nothing fancy going on there, because it's not an analog joystick. It's just got those new 4 positions, and that's it. But it's kind of like let's try something new. We have the tried and true joystick, the tried and true knob, and let's see if we can put 4 more things on it. And next song, back song, pause, play, right? Like that's all you need in terms of like function for like, now it's a complete volume control station for when you're listening to music. Mm-hmm. It's great when you're in editing programs. There's so many uses for it, and let's make that last little bit of space really efficient, instead of just putting like a badge or a key there.
It's a really cool idea, and I can't wait to get it in to start messing around with it.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah. So one thing I want to point out is, we've had quite a few board designers on here and keycap designers and everything, and this isn't a slam at anybody else, but one thing I really appreciate about you, Nathan, is you're not afraid to say, like, this idea just came to me out of nowhere. Like, I really appreciate that, you're going, hey, the people before me designed good stuff. I want to take, I took this idea from Langlandia, from Cafe. I really like this, so I implemented it, and I really like the JL1 in this way and implemented it. And I appreciate that you are someone that's willing to go, hey, I didn't do this by myself. I didn't pull all of this out of thin air. So I really appreciate that about you, because it shows that you can make great boards and you don't have to be the first person to do it. You don't have to be the person that came up with all these ideas by themselves. It's okay to borrow from other people. It's okay to help. So leading from that, there are obviously a lot of similarities between the Evolve and the Iron. And I know you worked very closely with El Baron
Yes.
on this project. So I want to talk to you about, we've heard kind of his side briefly, but I want to hear your side of the story of how your experience working with El Baron.
So that was actually interesting. So at the time I read that, I didn't actually know that Luke had done the write-up. So it was like, and it was a night of frustration of like, I had been working on this problem for like, I think it was like 3 months at that point, and I was not making any progress. I was just like, let me reach out to Vox, because Vox was the one who posted the IC, and like just ask him about it, because like this is a person who obviously would know what they're talking about, since they're the person that did the write-up. And so I reached out to him. He's like, oh, hey, it was actually Luke that did the write-up. And I was like, okay. And so I sent this like huge wall of text to Luke. And I think he got back to me next day, and he's like, oh, damn. You actually know your stuff with this one. And like, so I asked him, like, had you tried using generative design? Like, why did you use the methods you used? I like it was like a huge wall of text in terms of questions. And it was kind of, it slowly became like a back and forth in terms of, he's a material scientist, and he has this great knowledge base for material science for keyboards. And so I built off of like a lot of the FEA work that he had done to help inform my research for the generative plates, and kind of went off of that to try to get the Evolve to where it is today. And the plate is still a work in progress. Like, I thought I had like a plate design nailed for the V2, and I got the manufacturer to make it, and it broke during machining, right? Like, that's how fragile it was. So it's like, okay, back to the drawing board. How can we reinforce this while starting to like keeping the original ideas behind it? And it's been a fun process to do. I almost wish it had gone a little bit faster, and I'd have a plate that I could show off right now. But it is what it is, and this is how it goes sometimes in engineering, right? You have these ideas, and they take time to execute. But like, working with him has been a pleasure, and he's been like so supportive. I know like the IC came out, and people were like poo-pooing all over the idea, and Luke was there in the thread like, hey, like, if you don't know what you're talking about, you should stop. And so he's just a great guy, and the entire Smith and Room team are like, both Vox and Luke are like amazingly supportive, and they have been a pleasure to work with.
Yeah, and I think, Chewy and I, we shared that, not that exact same sentiment. I think both of us had this is definitely out there, but I'm trusting that this is someone who knows what they're doing, because I don't. And it looks awesome. It was like, if this can happen, this will be crazy. And not just the plate, the whole back and the bottom in general. It's just a crazy looking board. And I think with what you've said of both Ursa and now the Evolve, of like how you see what someone else is doing, you see something that you like, you take it and you go off of it, is like the perfect example of how, when people start, like, it takes one person to do something different, and then that leads to 5 other people perfecting that or changing it and making it their own. And I love seeing that.
And it's like when the gasket first came into the hobby, people were like, what is this? And then somebody else did it, and then somebody else did it, right? Like, where we are now in the hobby, and even great in like a grander scheme of the world, is like, we're building off of the work of others, right? Yep. And we are riding on the shoulders of giants. And I think there's nothing wrong with admitting that there are the people who came before you, and you are where you are now because of them, and you are building to where you are now because of those people.
Yeah. That's, that can be said about a lot of things in this hobby, right? With we've seen the Iron 165 kind of get criticized because people are going, why is it being treated like a key cult? It's being treated like a key cult because key cult kind of laid a lot of the groundwork, right? They were able, and then Smith and Room was able to look at that and go, how can we improve on it? How can we make it different? How can we push things forward, right? And my guess is in a year or two, someone's going to come out with something else, and it's going to be because, the Iron and the Evolve came out, and I want to push it even further, right? Yeah. The best keyboard that will exist hasn't come out yet, because the keyboard that was designed off of hasn't been made yet because the keyboard that was designed off hasn't been made yet.
Exactly.
You know,
If we hadn't been building off of each other's work, we'd still all be typing on pokers, right?
Yep.
Like,
hands down. You know, it's crazy that, you know, in 5 years, the Evolve, the Iron 165, every Keycap board that's been released so far could be, oh, that's old news. No one cares about those boards anymore because we've got this new thing now, the Keycap 7.
But it is, you know, we've had people on the show, like I think even Luke said it, Vox said it, of like, we need to push for keyboards to be using things like science, using these better tools in order to get better, rather than just recycling the same different things in new ways. Like, that's cool, and there's a place for that, but it's like, if we really want to get to peak keyboard, utilizing the processes that are used, you know, globally for different products can really help make this better.
And we have so many talented people in this hobby, right? Like, you know, people who use keyboards are you know, like, and people who just like buy nice keyboards are people who obviously interact with their computer a lot, right? And they're, you know, they're people who know what they're doing. And right, like Luke is a material scientist. I have friends who are vibration engineers. I have friends who manufacture like crazy good PCBs, right? Like, and I've met all of these people who are really good at what they do, and like we can build off of each other's work to get where we are today and to get where we will be tomorrow, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So I want to pick your brain on one more board, because another board that was just as lofty of a goal, I do think people should have been as skipped, because 2 boards came out, right? The Lodestone and the Evolve ICs came out very close. These are 2 boards that as a picture shouldn't work, right? As a picture, it's either going to be that'll work, but that'll be 15 grand, or that won't work. Who's using magnets in a keyboard? You were kind of still newer on the scene. Jay's been around, and with the success of the J01, probably got a little less heat than you. But I do want to talk about, because these boards are pushing, these are the 2 boards right now that are pushing things forward in terms of design changes overall. I do want to talk about the Lodestone and your thoughts on.
I love the Lodestone. Magnets was actually something that I had thought about before I even started working on Evolve, because I knew I wanted to make a keyboard for myself, and I was like, this is a bit crazy. Let me start with something simpler. And no, I'm really glad that he made it, because I think it's right. Like, I mean, magnets are proven technology, right? You can look at maglev trains using things to levitate. You can look at all sorts of uses of magnets for vibration engineering. They use magnets in the highest end, like physics laboratories to make sure lasers are perfectly aligned. And right, like they get the job done to suspend what they need to suspend in the exact place that needs to be suspended. And I think the Lodestone is like the perfect first step into that, right? It's not 100% magnetic levitation. It's not floating. It's being pressed up against gaskets, but there's nothing wrong with that, right? Full floating is going to be much harder to achieve. We should start with some place that's really, you know, that's like, find a good entry point for that. And I think Jay did a perfect job there. It's a board that I'm really looking forward to, because again, like, I like the fact that he's pushing the hobby forward and trying to do different things and going like, hey guys, this is a thing that I think is possible, and I think it's the next generation past gasket for the high-end boards.
It'll be really cool to see how that gets implemented through different boards, see how other designers take what the Lodestone does. If it works out, it's super successful, and it does kind of have the gasket effect of that happened in 2018 into 2019, where everyone was like, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it like this.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, that can change the way we think about flex also, where it's like, oh, you know, we don't need cutouts on the plate. You can make a solid plate, because the entire plate's just going to be magnetically mounted to the top of the keyboard, and you'll just be naturally pressing against it. So any other, before we kind of, I know people are getting antsy for some sneaky peekies.
With sneaky
Got some
beakies.
keyboards. But any other boards you might be working on? You don't have to reveal any secrets,
Yeah.
but
The answer is yes. I do have some future projects coming up. Both evolve and not evolve, right? So there will be. I did the proto run of the evolves, and they were 100% polycarbonates, and I realized kind of with that I can probably bring like a full polycarbonate version to market and like make it like $300, right? I can like get a vendor to help me run that, and like kind of bring this design to the mass market in like a more popular form factor than say 75%. And so that's planned. It's out there. But closer to now, I do have some things that I'm working on that are pushing design differently, back to kind of the more scientific things. But this time, instead of typing feel, I think we can do much more to revolutionize typing sound. And so I'm excited with that. And it should be a good board. I'm not quite ready to say too much about it yet because there's still a lot of things that are floating and it's still very early in the design phase. But
we'll talk about it after stream, right?
More.
No, it's awesome to hear. Like it's funny because I know Tyler Durden's, which is CYL Caps, was saying it in chat of like it's awesome to hear all of the work and like the level that goes into designing these things, because I think a lot of times when you post like an IC or something like the Evolve or the Lodestone or even the Iron, you can put in like, oh, hey, we did this, but then people don't understand the extent or like why, right? Like someone who's not in that line of work may not understand why what you did works. So it's really awesome to hear, because I have the same feeling about this right now as I did after we talked to Vox about the Iron 165 plate, because it's just so awesome to see the like actual usage of science and like actual hard things and numbers and stuff to make sure that it's working properly and it is the optimal design, rather than just like, here's a metal square.
Yeah. And like there's nothing wrong with like people following Quantric's 65% tutorial and doing their first board. Like just myself personally, I really wanted to challenge myself and do something that was really crazy, and that's where the Evolve came from.
Yeah, there's room for both. That's the best part about it. And honestly, there needs to be both. We need to have more, because like I'm definitely on the opposite side. I designed a board that was by no means pushing any sort of design further. But I wanted to release something that was like, I know this will be good. And I think there are a lot of people that are designing these boards that it's like, we're trying to, the NK65, that's not pushing the community further. And in terms of design, that's pushing the community further in terms of getting boards into people's hands.
Yeah.
And so that we do need to release these, more general release, tried and true type boards. That's why the Tofu is always going to be a super popular board, because it's getting people the stuff. But then of course, to move towards, we wouldn't have the Polaris do so well and be such a kind of groundbreaking board if it wasn't for the people in the past. So
yeah, exactly. Accessibility is really important in the hobby, and getting like there's nothing wrong with taking, this is a design, I'm gonna make this thing perfect, and I'm just gonna pump it out really well with the methods I know to pump it out really well. And like the Baka or the Squid that are like that. The NK65 is like that. Even the Polaris is like that. Polaris was like the first board you go like gaskets. This is high end stuff, and I'm gonna bring it to the low to mid end, right?
Yeah,
and it's a super good board, and I love to see new people come into the community, because like ever since I've joined, I've loved this place, and it's like an amazingly wholesome place to be. And the more people, the merrier.
Absolutely. So you teased it on Instagram. I did the bare minimum of my side of things on Instagram by throwing it in the story. So explain your color process and kind of how you did a proto run.
Yes.
So
there-
explain that before we show off too much, just to piss more people off in chat. Let's
So
talk about the proto run.
Polycarbonate Evolve. There's 30 of them made, right? And that's probably all there ever will be made of the full clear frosted polycarbonates. I got like 20 friends and family to buy into it. Bought a lot of extras because I really did not know how it was going to come out. So wanted to have the room for the B stock. And I'm really, really happy with it. I've been QCing the boards. They all arrived. I have them sitting in the living room. And it's really crazy to be looking at them and to have that and to be there with Evolve. But they were clear, right? And like that's the look of polycarbonate is frosted. And then somebody reached out to me and was like, "Yo, could I get mine in purple?" I'm like, "Oh no, let me ask the manufacturer." And this was like just as the manufacturer was about to ship them, just before the manufacturer was about to ship my own proto, right? Because I got my proto first and then the rest came. I was like, "Can I get one in purple?" And so here is the purple Evolve. And this is a 1 of 1. And I'm mad it's a 1 of 1 because I want it. And it's not my board. It is a fantastic colorway. It looks so amazing.
It's the Game Boy Evolve.
It's the Game Boy Evolve, exactly.
You should call it the Game Boy Advanced because like they also came in that purple.
What does Nintendo call the purple? Galactic purple or something like that?
Yeah, I think it's like galactic purple.
And it's just stunning. It's so good to the point where like I reached out to the manufacturers like, okay, how did you dye this? Because I got to do this to my own boards now. And like I'm probably gonna like go and buy some like professional polycarbonate dye and like dye mine something. I don't know if it's gonna be purple, maybe black, like for that like smoky look. But it is a stunning piece. And I'm really glad that the person who asked for this. Because I think it's like one of those things that like I have it up on my shelf behind me, and I just like sometimes I just like to look at it. It's just so pretty. So that's how this came about. It literally was not my idea. Somebody reached out to me and was like, "Can I get mine in purple?" I was like, "Let's see." And then it came out, and it was stunning.
Looks great. Great. I can't wait to see it built and see pictures of it all together. You might want to ask 159 because I know he has a process because he dyed his Sirius.
Yeah.
No,
like
like
a green,
turquoise, right?
yeah.
Yeah, because that and like a seafoam, I'd be like, all right, cool. Yeah. Time to sell my Baka #1. get a seafoam Evolve.
Yeah.
So
looking at polycarbonate dyeing and people can do like gradients on it. Like oof
in chat, guys. Oof in chat. We don't really use oof that much. That's kind of I think that was the first one that we did.
Yeah, that was the first first emote.
One of the first emotes we had. So, you know, we talked about it. For those who missed it, what's your timeline looking like on protos, and what's your timeline looking like on group buys? So, if you have one.
So okay, the protos are probably going to be leaving my door before the end of the summer. It's like I got to go back to school, and they have to be out before I go back to school. So, before the end of the summer is when the protos are leaving, and then the group buy is very TBD. I've been working with my manu in the background on getting the cast aluminum base. It's very different than the base on the proto run because when you're casting, you have to completely approach the design in a different mindset, right? Mm-hmm. It's been a process. I'm still not happy with where it is, and I'm not going to release it until it's ready. So the group buy will happen. How long until it happens, I can't really say with certainty right now.
Just we'll continue to be patient.
I'm sorry. But I know that's disappointing to hear, but like I want to get it done, but it's gonna happen when it's ready.
Yeah, we've got a buddy local that got in on one of these prototypes. I'm happy. I'll just go steal it from him for a few weeks.
Yeah, well, it's also really nice that you are actually taking the time, because a lot of people would just be like, this is good enough, we'll just run it. But the fact that you're like making it perfect, you have a high standards for it is nice to see, because that means that's comfort in the fact of when it does run, it's going to be a good board. It's going to be run well.
Yeah.
So, got a question asking any updates on the simulated plate.
Yeah, so the latest state with the simulated plate is it's back to the redesigning phase because it broke during manufacturing.
It'd be like that sometimes.
Yeah.
Split, evolve, win.
Never. I have one split board right there. It's fun. I'll give it that. Because it's something that I can like use on the daily. Probably once my wrists go out, I'll have to, but like until then, no. I mean, like nothing wrong with split boards. I think they're fun, but just like going between like column stagger to row stagger with like your keyboards and switching your layouts like every day, it's like not. Yeah, it's hard. Like I typed on it for a week, and then I was like, okay, I got to go back to some more standard layout.
Yeah, that's the Alice Alice style layout's the only board I can comfortably switch in between
Yeah.
like very quickly. That was the reason that I kept mine, is because it was so easy to just be like, oh, and I'm typing and this is normal.
Yeah.
This just feels
Yeah,
natural.
exactly.
But switching to a full on, I'd be.
I've got a Tengu coming, and I'm really excited to give out the Alice Proto. Give a try to the Alice Pro layout. This is gonna be my first one, and then of course there's Gondo's Sagittarius, which I've talked with him about that, and like I don't know if he wants me to repeat it, but like he said it's the most comfortable typing experience he's ever had, and I'm like, wow, okay, well I'm gonna get myself one of those when it comes out because it first off it looks beautiful. And here we are talking about like building off of designs. I don't think the Sagittarius would have happened without the Alice happening before it, as it's really just like let's take ergonomic design and let's make it perfect. And it was months and months of scientific study that went into that, where they had control groups of people typing on different keyboards and like asking them to review the comfort levels. And the design went through like some 16 iterations, right? Like that's how you do science, is the Sagittarius. And like I have no doubt in my mind that layout is like probably the most comfortable thing that you can type on. And like all the people who are in that thread are like, no, I like prefer like my ergonomics boards to be symmetric, or like this is not going to feel good because I don't think it's right for me. It's like this is science. Give it a try instead of just poo-pooing it in the thread because you like the aesthetic of a symmetrical ergo.
Yeah, and it's not like the Sagittarius looks bad. Like it actually looks pretty cool in the way that it's laid out, and it makes sense when you think about it. But people had the same reservations when the Alice first happened, right? When that board started gaining a whole lot of popularity, because I think what you said is correct. A lot of these boards wouldn't exist if the Alice didn't happen. And I think a lot of people only gave it a shot because it had the TGR name attached to it, which was great for that layout. But
and I mean, like obviously, like the Lin came before it, right? And but yet people call it the Alice layout, and that has so much to do with TGR's name.
Yep. Well, I mean, that's also whoever does it better, right?
Yeah.
Whoever does it better, and not just better. Like, oh, I'm sure there are some people that are going to say, "Hey, Lin did no, TGR did it better because they made potentially a better board, and they got it into the hands of people that were able to hype it up." It's a big part of that. Nathan Kim had one, and he had the typing test videos. Probably one of his top 10 is his Alice board because it's such a unique layout. And then also on top of that, you just have a lot of people going, "This is good, this is cool," and then him releasing it to the world design wise. Now we talked about this probably like a year and a couple months ago. We were like that layout. If people start designing stuff like that layout's going to become the norm, and I think it has.
Yeah, and I think there's something really cool about like also as being an outsider to the hobby, and then like say like Nathan Kim's Alice video pops up in your YouTube recommended feed one day. You're like, I didn't know that's something a keyboard could be, right? And even people in the hobby for that, like when it first came out, like I didn't know that's something a keyboard could be. And to have that experience is really cool, and like to push the design forward is something super special.
Yeah, that's one of those boards that if I left, I would have a hard time getting rid of, because it's just such a. I usually use it at work because it's the one board. My rule is that it needs to be, my boards have to be used for everything that I do, gaming included. That's the one stray, because it's hard to game. I can and I have, but it's hard. But I leave it there to work because it's also a board that I can quickly change between typing, and it's the perfect work board for me personally. So, well, we have got some pictures, some spicy pictures to go through. So GMK Ursa was your first set. I want to talk about this super secret second set that you have. Third.
We got Infinity Amalfi, which
that's right. I'm
actually.
There you go. Third. So second GMK, third set overall. Right. Very excited. We got the chance to peek at it right before the stream, and it's cool. So let's show that off.
Boom. There it is.
So first off, before I start talking about it, like, huge shout out to Octix, the designer of GMK Apollo. He's been my partner on this set. The design idea was initially his, and we've been working on it for quite a long time now. This is GMK Polybius, and it's inspired by like 80s arcades, and it's something that I really fell in love with. For any of you who've roller rink carpet, arcade carpet, like that's where those mods draw their inspiration from. And we really wanted to do something that was clean and refined yet fun. And we struck this perfect balance of colors and shapes to get that set to where it is. Right? It's been a lot of iteration, a lot of work, and I love it. It's something that I can't wait to IC. I can't wait for all of you to see the IC, because we've done some really, really special things for the IC. We're trying to it's hard, but I want to do a better IC than Dracula, right?
Ooh.
That's kind of
Ooh.
We started out with.
I'm gonna head up Piku
last week. So
hey, strive to be better, right? I think this is the first set that has ever made me smell a smell and taste a taste, because the smell of burnt popcorn and the taste of just shitty, like plasticky nacho cheese that came from like a can, it just straight into the senses. I'm like I am just rolling around, having to like awkwardly rollerblade on carpet because that was a thing. Yeah, dude, I know, Cyrus, I know you went to the old Thunderbird.
I was literally thinking this reminds me of Thunderbird. You go on your birthday, they have the like borderline probably should be at a strip club thing where it's like the money pit, where it's like this giant glass thing, and they it's got a air blower in the bottom, and they put a whole bunch of $1 bills, and you can try to catch as many as possible, and they have these symbols on the carpets. And this just took me right back to being a kid and going there.
This is kind of a must-have. I don't typically go for the like set, like dots wasn't really for me. Like I appreciated it, but stuff that is a little astray from just normal key sets, not something I really go for. But this one, feels. And Mineral 4X. How do I feel about the pipe key not being an icon? Well, the pipe key is technically not an icon.
Yeah.
But split backspace, I imagine, will have something on there.
Split backspace does have something on it, correct? Yep.
So
if you really want an icon there, put split backspace there.
Yeah.
But then your backspace and your pipe can have the same icon on them.
I do really appreciate the fact that this, we've seen a lot of sets that are like this, and the fact that they are very different from the standard GMK. We've seen a lot more of the quote unquote fun sets. But I like that this still, it blends it, right? Like it's fun, yet it's still classy. Like it's just a little bit of flavor in there.
Yeah. And it was hard to get right, because it's so easy to accidentally become too much, right? You oversaturate any one of those colors and it's wrong. you get the color balance wrong on any of the relationships there, right? Like there was a lot of time spent in getting the progression from, up from the bottom of the keyboard to the top of the keyboard, from left to right on the control super alt, right? Like that color balance took a lot of time to get right. And then also just the set itself, right? Like we see this all the time with IDE sets. Hey, they do the same thing with breaking down the mod, like the legend color on the mods, but they also have the mods a different color than the alphas. And we tried that. We had the mods a different color than the alphas, and it just didn't work. By doing this monochromatic set and then throwing this crazy splash of color into it with these like really insane icons, I think we were able to strike like the perfect balance of making this something refined yet fun.
Yeah, it's as Eric said, it's like it wants to be formal, but it's also there to party.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like man, if I do hope to get this set. Hopefully we can see an interest check soon, a group buy soon. I imagine getting these colors it'll be a minute before we can get this set in hands. But if we do, I might go put rollerblades on during the build.
I would that'll be a photo. I want someone to take a picture of the board with this set on it with the rollerblades in the background.
Yeah.
That would
carpet.
be and the carpet. That'd be awesome.
If you can get like a novelty rollerblade, that would be cool too.
We might have to take a trip down to Thunderbird and do this.
Yeah. I think it's just like an empty warehouse now, but yeah, well done. This is another you've managed to classy up a set that really shouldn't be classy. We're talking 80s roller rinks, 90s roller rinks, those are not the classiest places in the world to go to. And you've managed to capture that beautifully.
Thank you.
Shoes and keeps, rollerblades and keeps.
Start a new trend on our session.
Bringing it back.
Although you might damage your board, so be careful if rollerblading while holding keyboards. You don't want to drop them. They're durable, but dents, they happen pretty easily.
Although you can rollerblade off of the Evolve. That would be a perfect.
Fill it with first, yeah.
We'll rollerblade off of the Evolve that has this set on it, doing a sick kickflip, and then I'll break every bone in my body.
And then the tagline's got to be, when you break but the Evolve doesn't.
When the Evolve is stronger than human bones.
That might be the best proof of concept in keyboards ever.
Yeah.
So, guys, if you have questions, we will have just at Mex on Decus. We can, if you want to talk about Ursa, you want to talk about. Sorry, say one more time what this name was
For the new set?
The Keycap set.
Yeah, it's called GMK Polybius.
Polybius.
So for those of you that don't know, Polybius is one of the most legendary arcade games of all time, and that's a huge part to the fact it doesn't exist. It's kind of this internet myth about this game that existed in Portland, that supposedly existed in Portland, and when people played it, they got seizures. They would be have temporary amnesia, and there's these claims that the government and the FBI were using it for mind control experiments and things like that. And it's all just urban legend, right? But it's really fun, and it was a really good starting place for the inspiration of the set.
That's a really cool theme.
Ultra, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
So Parallel Designs ask price estimate for the Evolve. I imagine that's still kind of a ways out.
It's not going to be the original $1,000 estimate. It's going to be less than that. It will be expensive.
Good boards cost money.
Yeah.
So what do you plan? I'll ask this. What do you plan on putting on your Evolve?
Ursa. I think that that one's just really, really simple for me. I'm putting Ursa on it. I think the idea of having a board that I can call my own, where like everything in here I designed is really cool. Like obviously the switches, I'm probably gonna put H1s in my Evolve, and those aren't my Switch. But one day I might design my own Switch, and then I'll have a board with that Switch in it, and my own key set on it, and that's gonna be that.
There you go.
So I do have a question. So obviously you just got in the community a little over a year ago, and you've already come this far in your flexing your design knowledge and your ability to grasp it. Do you have plans on continuing in this? Is this something you maybe want to become a designer, maybe do this full time?
So I don't have plans on doing. I mean, I've been doing it like full time over the summer. I had an internship lined up, and that fell through me for a variety of reasons. So I've been working on it full time over the summer, and that's been a lot of fun. Whether I want to turn keycaps and the mechanical keyboard into my like full time career, I don't think so. I do want to go to like graduate school once I'm done with university. So I'm about to finish up my undergrad degree, and I'm applying to graduate schools. And I think continuing to do this while I'm going there will like entertain me and give me like some income. I've been thinking about possibly establishing myself as a vendor, and helping to bring certain friends' boards to markets, and like some sets. I don't have any intentions of necessarily competing with Dixie or Novel Keys, but I think it would be good just to be able to have like a proper channel to sell my own things through.
Yeah.
So yeah, I 100% plan on continuing in keyboards, and it's a hobby I love. I don't think it's something I'm going to do full time, but we'll see how well I'm going to balance that with graduate school and whatever else I may have going on. I mean, Upas is making it work, and he works full time, so
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think things like the Evolve, like if you can show that off, I think that'll be pretty good on the resume. And I imagine the other things you've got coming are pretty bold and daring, and I think they would look good. I imagine they look good on graduate applications.
Yeah.
I just imagine walking into an interview. It's like, why do you think you should work here? I'm like, I brought a present for you. Let me just slide that across the table. It's like, we'll see you Monday.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a good project, and it will be a good resume piece. There's no doubt in my mind, especially in terms of design for manufacturing, because that's such a hard talent to find in designers. There's like I've done design reviews for friends who've built boards, and it's like, this is beautiful. You clearly know how to CAD and you clearly know how to design, but you're also like a machinist's worst enemy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I like the idea, you brought up being a vendor. It'd be great. I think one thing, a lot of vendors, the money's in keycaps, right? The money, where are you going to get your money? You're going to get your money selling keycaps. I think, Cyrus and I have talked about this a lot. We kind of need that vendor that just does boards, right? That's just, it takes a lot of capital. That's the biggest thing that's holding everything back, is you need capital. Boards is not going to make you as much money in the short term as keycaps. And so we need more of these vendors that are more board focused, right? And I think there just aren't that many. Most of them, some started off with boards and then quickly started picking up keycap sets, and now they're selling lots of keycap sets because that's where the money is.
Canon keys, right? Like Upas started it to sell his boards. I mean, like even Rama, he needs to run. I guess he doesn't need to run it, but like he has heavy industry, which like that's just a good little way to generate more capital to design more boards and things like that. Keycaps have some nice margins on them and are really great. And like I will definitely run some to help build up the business, but boards are what I would like to focus on, and I would like to help bring friends' boards to market. I know I've been talking with some people in DM like, hey, like when I do this, would you want to work with me? And yeah, they've been really great conversations to have.
We got TKC Rise asks, Biggest problem, or I guess state's biggest problem that people don't know about it is that right now boards are in an awkward position where you don't make enough to go into mass manufacturing, but you make enough for long lead times. And this, with smaller businesses, it's a verbally heavy part of the business. It's tough.
Yep.
Because if you order too many, you're screwed. If you order not enough, you're going to be waiting.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Novel Keys is kind of poster child of that right now.
Yeah.
They ordered 900. That could have been terrible for them. 900 keyboards costs a lot of money, and that could have been horrible if only 400 of them sold. That could have potentially tanked Novel Keys.
Yeah.
But now he's facing the other problem of receiving backlash for not buying it.
Yeah.
So.
And that's what makes the group buy format so great in this hobby. But also, like right on the flip side of that, you have group buys, and now you have this waiting period.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice to buy something and get it when you buy it, right? Like,
yeah, so. Which is interesting because if you look at like numbers for group buys, even group buys that were relatively low price, like you think, okay, the Polaris was open for a full month at $300, which is an insane price for what you got. At the time, the 700 units it sold, I think it might have been even more than that, but it wasn't an insane number. But those at that time, it felt like an insane number. Whereas with the NK65, sorry, brain fart there, NK65 selling 900 units in like couple minutes, that's insane. I know it's obviously a much lower price, but if you think about that, you have 30 days to buy this board and it's however many they can sell, and it only sells 700, and then this one at obviously a much lower price but still selling 900 in like a matter of minutes. That's crazy.
Yeah, to a certain extent FOMO does drive the hype, right? And like when you have 30 days to buy something, you're like, hey, I can buy it, and then you forget to buy it, right? Or I can buy it, and then you kind of like talk yourself out of it. But when it's like you need to be refreshed, you need to be hitting F5 in order to get it, you're like hyping yourself into buying it that like you might not even want it.
Yeah.
And I'll be interested to see what happens now with the community where it's at and how large it is when we do have more open buys that aren't like capped. Like I know there's a lot of boards that have been coming out where it's like a semi-open, where it's like, hey, we're only going to do this many, so whenever it gets to this number, we're going to be done. I'll be interested to see how many that gets to, those open buys, like the next Rama run. How many does that get to with how many people are in the hobby trying to buy things right now? Because I think there is something to be said about, oh, we do need more boards, but it's like, well, then why aren't these open buys that are really, really good boards not like hitting insane numbers like what we're hitting in keycaps, you know?
I think one thing that has to do with that, with a huge amount, like QCing boards is hard, right? Mm-hmm. And like you look at a lot of people who are delivering boards are teams of 1, 2, 3 people, right? And it's not feasible for that a single person to QC, 100 boards, much less 1,000. And I know like the Polaris started doing this, and Rama does this to an extent where they work with people, like they work with other teams to QC it. But still, if you have high standards, what's to say that those people don't have the same standards as you? And getting to the point where we're starting to have really good QC processes in this hobby is going to take a while, right? And you need to establish relationships with businesses who do this. I mean, obviously, Apple's figured this out. Phone manufacturers have figured it out. But it's going to take a while before we're there for keyboards, because you're not going to hire a QC company when you have 300 units. Yeah. They're only going to talk to you once you're starting to say 10,000 units.
And then once again, you're still running that huge risk. And that's kind of back to what the Polaris is. It's crazy that was going to be a great board, and it's like, oh, quick turnaround time. No, if you release the Polaris tomorrow, even one day open orders, it'd probably outsell the round one. But that caused manufacturing issues, because then it's like, great, they were thinking probably in the realm of 200 to 400, and then they got almost double.
1,000.
Yeah, something like that. It was and so now you're putting this huge strain. and you're still trying to, finish up. At the time, KBD 8X was still trying to wrap up. And now you've backed yourself into this corner with that menu because it's like, cool, that's all they're going to be working on for the next couple months. So it's a really, I do think we're going to start seeing a lot of really cool injection molded stuff with, we've got the Kate and we've got the Kara and the NK65. I think that we're going to start seeing a lot of these start to happen. It wouldn't surprise me if we started seeing KBD fans go the injection mold. Well,
yeah, and molding is great, right? Like there's a huge upfront cost to molding, but once the mold is established, the mold will last you quite a while, and you don't right like it's almost right like with CNC time, right? Each board has the same amount of CNC time. With the mold, you invest in the mold once, and then you kind of like can keep pumping out boards much faster, much quicker, and they become much more predictable and easy to QC because even for really refined machining processes, there's so much more that can go wrong in a CNC job than can go wrong during a molding process. So I do really think that molding is going to become a thing, and we're going to start seeing boards that are like, in a year or two that are having 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 runs. Yeah. And things like the N65 will be much more attainable as like, this is what you want if you want a high-end gaming keyboard, right? Instead of going to Corsair or to Logitech, like pay $20, $30, $40, $50 more, and now you can have like an inkling of what customs feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be interested to see, because that's another route where I'm sure people can kind of do more creative things and maybe make it a little bit more, unique, I guess, and maybe make it a little bit even more high end, but also get in those higher end features and maybe different aesthetic options at a lower price, which I think will be a great thing for the community.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Per unit price drops with molding, right? Mm-hmm. You invest in the molds. The plastic is relatively cheap. And the more you make, the cheaper it gets to a point. But aluminum is a fixed cost and machine job is a fixed cost. Yeah. Yes, it gets cheaper the more you make, and then it hard stops. While injection molding kind of tapers for much longer and gets much lower per unit.
Yeah. Well, and another thing is if you have a unit that is like awful, right? They can grind that plastic down and reuse it, right? Whereas with aluminum, you CNC something and something goes terribly wrong, it's kind of scrap at that point, that's waste.
Yeah.
Here's hoping. I'd love to start seeing it would I'm sure we're a little ways out, but it will be interesting to see when we finally see the high-end injection molded plastic case. Mm-hmm. Right? And we kind of see that with polycarb, right? Where it's like, oh, it's plastic, it's very nice. But when we start seeing these features, like a gasket mounted injection molded plastic case, like that will come out eventually. Someone is either working on it or is about to start working on it, because why not, right?
Big secret, the low end Evolve 65 that I plan will be vacuum molded, both top and bottom, out of polycarbonate, right? And it's like a quarter of the cost of what this is to menu.
Yeah, and upfront, and then you can continue to run that too. That's something that once you get and that's the like you said, once you get the mold, that's when you can start seeing in stock stuff. Yep. Metal boards, we could be very much moving to a, hey, metal boards are great, but it's going to be a lot harder to get. But when everybody's the custom keyboard community will be kind of potentially, and this is all hypothetical, could be split into, okay, well, I've got my custom keyboards. These are the 35 different offerings of injection molded keyboards. This is what's taken over the hobby. And then there will be like the high end hobby where these are where you get your metal keyboards, your Keplers that weigh 14 pounds. And if you drop on your desk, you're going to ruin your entire house. So.
Yeah.
Stupak62 asks, have you heard of Markrolon polycarbonate? The Lamy 2000 pin is made out of it. Very interesting feel.
Possibly. I would need to see it in person or in a picture. I'm not really good with material names off the top of my head.
I think it's just a brand. I think it's like a specific brand of polycarbonate. It's what someone else is saying.
SM Keyboards, thank you for the 6-month sub. Very much appreciate it. Guys, check out SM Keyboards. He does very awesome stuff. And the Ragin' Agent says hi to Nathan Alpha.
All right.
Love Ray.
So he's a fun guy. So yeah, I would love to see the hobby get to that point though, because then it's like we have what is mechanical keyboards about, right? Really, from the get go, the first 6 months to a year that you're in it, it's about typing feel. It's about having higher quality options compared to box brands, compared to Corsairs, compared to Pokers. That's what you want.
The customizability of it, right?
Yeah.
You can make it your own. You can put whatever keycaps that you want on it. Like every Corsair looks the same, but like every NK65 is going to look different and feel different because different switches, right?
Yep. And so making it your, like you said, personality and putting that in. And there will be a lot of people that will be okay with just having that. Yep. And then there will be the people, the old guard, and 5 years when all of us have been in the hobby for probably too long at that point, going just but metal keyboards. Like I need these 5-pound keyboards. And the hobby will probably split. And honestly, I don't see that as a bad thing. I see that as a good thing because that will allow for both sets to grow individually.
Yeah. And like one of the reasons I got into the hobby was because I wanted a keyboard to match my setup. I had gotten a custom commissioned PC case and I wanted something that I could put next to and go, okay, that really fits theme-wise. Because the WASD keyboard I was using before I got into the hobby was like gray keycaps with like orange and blue mods. It was like Portal inspired. I thought it was really cool back when I designed it in like freshman year of high school. And then looking at it now, it's kind of like this thing is kind of tasteless. And I wanted something that was more refined to match with the build that I have. And that's where I got into the hobby through. And I'm really glad that, we can create more affordable options for if people are doing desk themes, right? Like you go just browse r/battle stations and you see all of these themed desks. And now you can like theme your keyboard alongside of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sadly, on our battle stations, I'm like, oh, you missed. It's like super nice aesthetic, and then I see like a Corsair. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
Let me show you the world of emptying your wallet.
It's like a strange aesthetic too. I always see like those, like you have these like really clean white desks, and then they have like a black keyboard on there with the RGB LEDs turned on. And it's like if you just had a better keyboard, the theme would fit.
Yep. That's like when you look at like I'll sometimes go look at r/mechanical head pins just because it's a little bit of a meme, I think. But it'll be interesting to see someone that has like a $2,000 fountain pen with like a set of like $4,000 headphones and then like a K75, and I'm like, why are you not like if you're that person that's going that far deep and everything, why are you not going in on the keyboard as well? Like,
it's like
that these exist. Like, come on, man.
Child.
Yeah, posting on that sub, you know it exists.
Yeah. Where was it? Perry 4761 wants to see the purple case again. If you do not mind showing it off again, you should have just worn it on a necklace.
Yeah.
Do you think that those poles on the bottom are structurally sound enough to wear as a necklace?
Yeah. Like you could do it.
I'm just all right. Get ready for a sweet ass picture. Let's see. Floof Hazard. I do want to make a note of this because Osiris has been saying this since like probably before Mex on Deck started. Tungsten board win. One day.
One of those materials that's like kind of a big meme. I mean, it's really difficult to work with. It could happen. It's going to be nice and heavy. I don't know how it would sound. I know. Fropsy reached out to me about doing Damascus steel weights for one of his projects. It was like, yeah, you could do that if you really like burning money. Yeah. It's possible that someone might do it one day. It's going to cost a lot for sure.
Because the thing about tungsten is that the material is also so dense that getting the CNC machining, like the actual bits, it's going to destroy.
Yeah.
It's going to take so long just to figure out the proper bits. You might even have to have them custom made in order to get it to be, it would be insanely expensive.
You need specialized bits to machine tungsten. And it's one of those materials that almost like stainless steel. And I've only worked with tungsten like very briefly, so I can't speak to it too much. But like stainless steel gets the harder to work with the more you work it. And like tungsten is kind of similar in that regard. So if you kind of mess up on a pass, you're screwed for the entire rest of it. And it's just a difficult material.
Maybe one day. I think the best way to approach that is if you manage to make a weight, just the weight.
Yeah.
And make it very simple where it's just the weight goes in, you screw it in, and it might not even, probably would have to go on the inside of the board just because I feel like it would be so heavy if you picked it up, it would just rip the screws out.
I mean, screws are tough. Yeah. I think that's always something like people totally underestimate, but like I think it's like a 5 millimeter screw. Like technically the thread strength is enough to support an entire VW bug. Like if you drilled a 5 millimeter screw through the ceiling of a VW bug and like hung it from its roof, it would stay there just fine.
I didn't know that.
Strong.
I'm not an engineer, so I'm learning. You've been popping out words that I'm expanding my vocabulary tonight. Only in tension, not in bending or shear. I imagine. Yeah. What's the whole like eggs technically can't be broken if you apply the equal amount of pressure on a perfect egg.
Yeah.
There's something like that. How wide is the screw? Guys, if you have any more questions about the Evolve, about GMK Ursa, about the new GMK, I've already already messing up the name. Then please ask away. Sorry, you broke up. I can't.
It's GMK Polybius.
Polybius. I keep wanting to say GMK Polyphia, and I'm like, nope, it's not that. But are you happy with the sound of your PC Evolve different than you expected?
No, it's kind of about where I expected it to be from like other PC boards I've typed on. It's nice. It's got like I haven't typed on it with a PCB yet, so it's like difficult for me to say exactly. But I'm happy with where it is.
EKC Rise asks, if you buy an Evolve, can you pay for an optional date with Nathan? Asking for
Sorry, Rise, no.
Oof. Shot down. It's okay. Guys,
my girl dibs on those.
Let's pour one out for TKC as they go into an emotional depression here pretty soon. But it'd be like that sometimes. I love Chaludas asks, for the lower priced version of the Evolve, is the plan to run that as an unlimited or high quantity drop?
I don't know if I'm ever going to do something unlimited. We'll see, but it will be high quantity. It will probably be like semi-open buys, but like we'll see when we get there.
Grindbox asks, what are Nathan's thoughts on ortho/ergo boards? Would there ever be an ortho or ergo Evolve design in the future?
So I've never typed on ortho. I wanted to get the Atlas that UPAS and NASP were running, but I ended up not getting that. I do have the Iris, I think it is, it's an ergo split, so with column stagger, and it's nice. It is very comfortable to type on. I'm just not a big fan of going between different layouts, and I know my dad's gonna laugh at me for that because he's like, "Why are you getting it? You're gonna hate going between different layouts." And he was 100% right. And if he's watching right now, he's definitely giggling.
Let's see. Were the prices announced? I don't believe so. No, they're not. Let's see. Ask that. The answer. Well, I think we can start to shift towards some of our final questions. We just got one in by Pylon 7. What are your thoughts on metal casting or metal extrusion?
So metal casting is cool. I'm still trying to get the bottom of the production evolve. So the one that's going to be in GB, the plan is still to do it out of aluminum, and I'm going to try to cast the bottom out of metal. It's been a process. I think metal casting is something that's really cool. I feel like there's a bit of a stigma about it in the hobby, and I'm not sure why. But then again, there's like a lot of things in the hobby where it's like, hey, the way we do it because this is the way it has been done, right?
Ooh, new thing bad.
Yeah, exactly. So,
God, can that be a Mex on Deck shirt? Ooh, new thing.
Bad.
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 Be
I
funny.
love it. Before you guys can still, if you have questions, still throw the questions in the chat. I'm going to go through and talk about some awesome sponsors of this channel. And this channel would not be a thing without them. Starting off, switchmod.net/mexondeck will get you 4% off of your order. Krelbit, he's going through it. He's having a rough week. We discussed it Monday. About GMK making arguably the biggest mess up that GMK has and ever will. Get your lube. I lube some switches today with some lube from there. I know he's not going to be doing too much more, but try and get in if you can. Send him some love regardless. So switchmod.net/mexondeck. Go to mexondeck.dixiemech.com to pick up GMK nuclear data if you want to get a very awesome green set. We talked about some green sets, so be sure to check out nuclear data, as well as another set with cadet alphas, which we don't have a whole lot of. So, definitely, if you like that aesthetic, go for it. As well as GMK Pono, kind of a out of left field, starting in the middle of the month. But GMK Pono, if you like that aesthetic, the black and pink aesthetic, go hit it up. Pretty inexpensive for what you're getting out of the huge base kit. You can go to mexondeck.project.link to pick up GMK Sumi with some of the coolest desk mats I think we've seen since GMK Masterpiece, in my opinion. So some really awesome stuff there. Go click that link. These kickbacks definitely help us run our channel, as well as last but not least, Canakeys.com/mexondeck. Pick up GMK Bread and SA Mizu are running right now. Two awesome sets. I think the SA Mizu is a must get for the price if you like SA Row 3 profiles. So
Did have a couple more questions come in. Someone asked about a universal 60% evolve. Mr. Grindbox asked again.
Maybe I'm going to do a 65% before I do a 60%. And I might even do a 1800 before I do a 60%. Possibly one day, maybe.
there it is. Possibly one day, maybe. GMK Pono by my boy Sour. There it is.
Yeah, it was Rest.
Yeah, Rest. Nice. Also, quick shout to our partners. Zap Cables makes the best cables in the business. Tight Beast just released another fantastic issue of his newsletter, issue number 6, I believe. And Smith and Rune, be on the lookout for the Iron 180, as well as get some sweet merch. I think I'm going to be picking some up this weekend. And Smith and Rune, Al Baron. I'm sure you're a Smith and Rune flag flyer as we are. So be sure to check those guys out. So, well, we usually end with 2 questions. We actually haven't ended with these 2 questions in a hot minute.
It's been a while. I'm excited to get into it. So I'll ask the first one here. It'll be, what is your favorite and least favorite thing about the community?
So I think the least favorite is like super obvious what I'm going to say, but like it's flipping, right? Flipping in this hobby, I like you've had this discussion hundreds of times, so I'm not going to like throw more fuel onto the fire of the same thing again and again. But it's not something that's really productive to the success of the hobby, and it's something that only makes the whole place seem super toxic to newcomers, right? The fact that Polarises are flipping for $1,000 is ridiculous. It's supposed to be the perfect starter board, and you have people that are like, this is the wrong word, but almost like gullible enough to buy that. Or like, it's the perfect starter board, so I feel like I have to buy it. When for $1,000, you can buy some amazing boards. So why are you getting the Polaris, which is a $300 board? Yeah, flipping sucks. But it's a thing with all of these hobbies. Favorite thing about the community, I think it's kind of. This is a difficult one because I know people can argue against it, but it's almost like the wholesomeness and the supportiveness of everybody, but also specifically the designing communities. Everybody I've worked with on all of my projects have been such a pleasure to work with, and I haven't really had any negative experiences with many people. I really like working with the people I work with. I find like just being in public chat is a really wholesome time. And I love interacting. I love interacting with everybody here. And I know some people might argue against it because coming into the hobby might be toxic, especially those one post I see on Keycap. People are going to be very critical of you, and that can be really disheartening when you're new. But once you're in it, I think it's a beautiful space to be.
It's been really
Very
cool.
nice.
I see you, Rust, Ropsy, bunch of other people hanging out in Top Clock a lot of times, streaming design, talking about stuff, talking about boards. It's awesome to see people getting together and designing things together and using each other to learn, because I think that that'll be what's great for the community going forward, and in terms of like us growing and the keyboards getting not in a sense smarter, but like getting better because of the way they are designed, not because of like a material, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So we had another question though that I do really want answered. Pylon7 asks, what are your biggest pieces of advice for a new keyboard designer? I'm working on a design and interest check right now.
It's a hard question.
I can go first if you want, because
Yeah, go ahead.
mine's just reiterating what someone else told me. Shout out to Anthony001 because he helped me whenever I was designing the Baka and subsequently the Squid. Make the board for you. Other people will want it. Make the board that you want to make. Don't listen to other people. Don't try and appease other people, because the board that you make people are going to like it. And if they don't like it, they will sell it to somebody else who will like it, and people will enjoy it.
Yeah. What I was going to say, and what you much more eloquently put, is be yourself, right? In the end, it is your board. Yes, there are established conventions. Don't necessarily feel free to follow those conventions. If they help you design, if they like looking at other things, like helps you navigate how to approach board design and good board design, like by all means. But in the end, be yourself, because that's how you design something that you're proud of. I don't never design for anybody else, because you're not going to be fulfilled with that process. And like one other tip, I guess, is like push yourself, right? If you're outside of your comfort zone, you are going to feel a lot better about what you make, and there will be a learning experience for you. If you make something that you know how to make, you're not going to be fulfilled by the experience.
Solid. So, our last question: The Office or Parks and Rec?
Parks and Rec, no hesitation.
Who?
Parks and Rec making a comeback in 2020.
My boy, second half 2020. They had us in the first half, but
yeah, no. I mean, I recently just rewatched the whole thing with my girlfriend during quarantine. She's on the other side of she's not on the other side. She's in Canada right now. And so it's been like long distance, and so we've been trying to find things to do, and it's like I wouldn't say it's my favorite comedy show, but it's really good, and it's just something that I really enjoyed rewatching, and it's better than The Office. Like, I'd put Parks and Rec into my top 3, and The Office wouldn't come near it.
Ooh, I like it.
Man, this is some shade towards The Office.
I found out today that Jan Levinson was originally going to be played by Amy Poehler.
Really? That would have been interesting.
Which I think Amy Poehler's a great actress, but I think Melora Hardin for those. Yeah. I've been listening to, like, there's 2 Office podcasts now that are both great. And so now I'm learning, like, way more than I ever did about The Office. But I don't think Amy Poehler would have done that justice. I think she would have been too similar to Michael Scott to not be able to play off each other.
Yeah, that's fair.
And 10 strong. Chewy might have to ban you for saying that. The Parks and Rec storyline is actual trash.
Well, hey, ban hammers come swiftly and quickly.
I mean, we can talk about stories in sitcoms, and, like, sure, Parks and Rec started as a show that was cynical about government and became just like a feel-good comedy, but, like, there's nothing wrong with a feel-good comedy in your life, and sometimes you just gotta feel good, and that's the show you go to.
Yeah, it's hate it or love it. Parks and Rec, one of the greats. So it has been a pleasure and an honor to have you on.
Thank you. It's been a great time.
Osiris and I have been. This has been, like, circled on our, like, everything leads up to this interview, and then everything after with regards to Alex Odos. Everything after this was like, okay, we'll deal with that later. Let's. It's been on our radar.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a pleasure to be here. I had a lot of fun with you guys, and love to come back and chat when I have my next projects lined up and show them off and share them with you guys.
Is there anything you want to shout out? Anything you want people to know or go to? I know people were talking about a Discord server you have.
I do have a Discord server. It's called Alpha Studio, but it's about to get renamed because Alpha Design has just been incorporated in the state of California. So I am officially a company now. And so you'll see a storefront pop up soon. And Evolve Group Buy will happen through that storefront. So it's really nice to be legitimate, I guess. So check out the Discord server, check out the Evolve IC, check out the Polybius IC that's coming up soon. Big shout out and thank you to all of the people who have helped me and supported me come to where I am today in this hobby. My parents, my girlfriend, Steph from Switch Keys. He's probably the first person that I grew, like, a vendor that I grew a real relationship with. And, like, I IC'd Ursa, and then he reached out to me. He's like, hey, I'm this new vendor in Australia. You want to join me on this, like, wild adventure? And I've had a lot of great experience with him. Amalfi was co-designed with him. I have 4 Switch Keys plushes behind me who have been staring at me throughout this interview. Huge shout out to Optics for all the help on GMK Polybius, and Luke for all the help on Evolve, and everybody else who's helped me along the way.
Awesome.
Hell yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I feel smarter.
Yes.
I have a greater understanding of everything that went into everything that you've done and what you're doing in the future. So it was an absolute pleasure to have you on.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So next week, we got a pretty fun week. So Monday, we're going to be making some pretty big announcements for the channel. So be sure to stick around for that. Tuesday, I will be doing a co-build stream with Langlandia for the Crown. So if you haven't checked out Langlandia yet in his streams, like, Langlandia is easily probably the best friend I've never met in person. As well as we'll be giving out a set of GMK Peaches and Cream that was directly from Rinsuya himself. So I'll be giving that out at the end of that stream. And then next Wednesday, we'll have Alex Odos on to talk about some of his key set design. So very excited to have. He's always a pleasure to have on. So should be a fun time. Who are we gonna raid?
Well, it looks like we got a few options. We could go Mentrally, we could go Apiary, we could go Andy Wynn. Let's see. I'm trying to look through Makers and Crafting, see if there's anyone else.
I looked earlier, didn't see. But Nathan, why don't you decide?
Let's go raid Minterly.
Mentally? All right. What are we gonna say? What's I gonna
I don't know. Does chat have any good suggestions?
chat? What are we gonna yell at mentally in all caps? Alpha. I like it.
There we
I
go.
like it. So just alpha. Just spam it. Thank you guys. We will be back Monday. And let's get start raid. There we go. So start copy pasting or just typing all caps alpha. Something went wrong.
I already did it.
But,
I already did it.
okay.
Yeah.
That's probably why it was something went wrong.
Yeah. I already put in the command. But no, we appreciate everyone stopping by again. Nathan, thank you so much for hanging out with us, talking, sharing your vast knowledge. And we will see y'all next week.
I appreciate that someone's already in her chat yelling alpha. We haven't even rated yet. So, all right. Bye, Switch Tester.